Today we're making butterflake herb loaf. This is a very moist, tender, and buttery pull-apart loaf. This bread gets its tenderness from milk, and we're also going to use some instant mashed potato flakes. You can also make a sweet version of this bread using some maple sugar or some cinnamon sugar. And all of that information will be included in the information box below the video. We're going to start out with 4 ingredients: 1 cup of milk, 1/2 of a stick of butter or 4 tablespoons, 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar, and 2 teaspoons of table salt. I'm adding this to my glass measuring cup because we're going to heat this in the microwave. I microwave this for 1.5 minutes on high. You don't want to microwave this until it boils, just maybe 90 seconds until the butter is mostly melted. Stir this mixture until your butter is completely melted. We're going to set this aside and let it cool for just a minute while we mix together our flour and the rest of our dough. You want to measure out 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and that's 480 grams. I always use a scale when I'm making bread or cakes. If you don't have a scale, just fluff up the flour in the container, sprinkle it over a measuring cup, and then wipe off the excess. Now in a large bowl, we're going to transfer our milk and butter, sugar and salt. And to this, we're adding our 4 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of instant yeast or active dry yeast, and I'm adding 1/3 of a cup of instant mashed potato flakes. You can also use 2 tablespoons of potato flour. So either one, 2 tablespoons of potato flour or 1/3 cup of instant mashed potato flakes. And 2 large eggs. Let's mix this until we get a shaggy dough. Now this will make 2 loaves of bread. And I'm going to hand knead this today. You can transfer this to your stand mixer and use the dough hook and knead it. If you're in a humid environment, you may have to knead in up to another 1/2 cup of flour. My house is very dry right now. It's still winter, so my house is very dry right now. So I'm going to hand knead this. You want to knead this until it's smooth. So you want it to become into a ball. And you see, it did not stick to my surface. I did not need any additional flour. This is a very, very strong dough. It's going to be very moist and tender and delicious with that milk and those potato flakes. Now what you're going to do, go ahead and oil a bowl, and we're going to place this in the oiled bowl covered for 90 minutes until this is puffy. It's not necessarily going to double in size, but it's going to become considerably puffy. So we'll be back. We're going to roll this out, and we're going to fill this with butter and garlic. While our dough is rising and getting puffy, let's go ahead and make our filling. You need 1 stick or 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter that's softened. And mine isn't quite as soft as I want it. So to take the chill off of my butter and soften it a little, I microwave it for about 30 seconds. I'm just going to kind of stir this around. Just going to stir this around so it's mostly melted. Now we add 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of chopped onion or chives. I'm using some freeze-dried chives. You can also use some dehydrated minced onion. I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of these dried minced onions as well. 1/2 teaspoon of dried oregano. I'm also adding 1/2 teaspoon of dried basil. And I love garlic, so I'm adding a teaspoon of minced garlic. The store-bought, you can use fresh minced garlic. So that's about 2 medium cloves of garlic. And that's our basic mixture. So you can modify this however you like. I'm actually going to add a couple tablespoons of some grated Parmesan cheese. This pull-apart loaf is delicious with any herb mixture. Add some seeds to this. Add some fennel seeds or caraway seeds. You could make this all butter and cheese, and you could also make a sweet version of this pull-apart bread using some butter and some cinnamon sugar. I'll put the ingredients for a sweet version in the information box below. We're going to get our dough and we are going to make it into 2 loaves, and then we're going to roll it out, cut our dough into round rings, and we're going to layer them into our baking loaves. You can use either 2 8.5 by 4.5 standard loaf pans. You can use a tea loaf pan. Our dough has risen for 90 minutes. It hasn't necessarily doubled in size, but it's gotten very puffy. Deflate this. There's not a whole lot of air in there. We're going to cut this dough in half. And now we're going to roll each half into 12-inch circles about 1/4 inch thick. You can do this on a greased surface or a lightly floured surface. So it's a very springy type dough, and I find it's easier to roll it. That's a little more than a 12-inch circle. Now we're going to cut out 10 circles that are about 3 inches in diameter. If you don't have a 3-inch cookie cutter, you can also use the lid from a wide mouth jar. That's the same diameter. Now we take our butter and herb mixture, and we take about a teaspoon, put it on 1/2, and then fold that over like so. Then lay that in your loaf pan, your greased loaf pan, with the fold side on the bottom. Just be aware of how much of your filling you're spreading on these, because you have 2 loaves to make. I have 10 3-inch rounds folded in half. I'm covering this with cling wrap, and this is going to rise again for 90 minutes before it goes in the oven. Our loaves have been sitting for about 90 minutes in a warm spot. You see, as before, they don't double in size, but they get puffy. These are going into a 350-degree oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. If you see they're browning up too much, tint them with foil. Our 2 loaves cooked for 25 minutes. Turn them out of the pan. Beautiful pull-apart bread. So you'll want to turn them out immediately, kind of like accordions. And now we're going to brush them with some melted butter. Look at the inside of this beautiful herb pull-apart bread. Moist and tender and delicious.